Hello everyone and welcome back. I'm your host, Veteran Mountain Man, and I was looking at some history this week and I noticed something rather insane, actually. I started looking at different moral panics and kind of where they started, what caused them. And if we go back to the previous one, prior to this whole social justice warrior BS, you have the devil worship one. And the devil worship one was written primarily by Christian groups. However, at the time, the psychiatry and counseling community was heavily Democrat. And that's where the initial scare came from. And it was because there was this huge push for therapy and this huge push for psychology and this huge push. Everybody's got to be in therapy. Everybody's got to be in treatment. That came out of the moral panic of the 60s that pushed this concept. And it's what created these false ideas and these false memories and created the moral panic of the satanic cult. Well, you get back into the 60s, and the moral panic of the 60s was the civil rights movement, which was created because of Jim Crow laws. And the Jim Crow laws, without exception, were passed by Democrats. Well, let's go back to the moral panic before that, and that was the Dust Bowl. And the Dust Bowl had been created due to a uncontrolled expansion of farming, primarily pushed by the Democratic Party for the expansion west for imminent dominance of the nation. Now, the Republican Party assisted in that push west, but a lot of that push was from the Democratic Congress members in the major cities where they held large amounts of sway. And they were trying to open up land to the west for farmers who had been ruined by the Civil War. Well, let's look at the one before that. Well, that was the Prohibition era, which was pushed by the women's temperance movement and the KKK. Well, let's look at the founding of the women's temperance movement and the KKK. Well, those happened in big cities which had been created because of the Western expansion and the push of the Southern Democrat moralists who came out with them in a lot of cases. And it just seems that the Democratic Party has this overwhelming push to Puritanism that the Republican Party on occasion kind of pushes to fruition, but realistically doesn't seem to have as much of. And while both sides have been responsible for the fruition of many of these moral panics and outrages, a lot of it seems to be stemming up from the Democratic Party in the locations where they came from, who was initially moving them. And I mean, we see this all the way back: slavery, states' rights versus federal rights. Back, even the whiskey rebellions of Virginia and Pennsylvania. I mean, it just seems that there is this almost overwhelming Puritanism that has stuck with the Democratic Party and has kind of morphed into this collective cultural postmodernism Marxist concept where they have to be morally right. They can't just be logically correct. They have to be morally right, whether there's logic or not involved in their decision-making. They are on the moral high ground and have the moral well-being of everybody. Well, that only works if A, you have morals, and B, those morals are shared with your constituents. So I urge everyone who is sharing my podcasts and listening to my podcasts, quit falling for it. The Democrats are not moral. In fact, if anything, they're primarily antithetical to the moral decision set. Well, I want to thank you all again for joining me. Once again, if you're following me on my primary channel, which is at vid.me, please upvote and follow me, and go ahead and leave a comment here. I do read and answer my comments when applicable. If you're catching me on syndication on YouTube, you can like and subscribe there. Also, don't forget minds.com/veteran mountain man, and I have finally monetized my Minds account, so you can contribute to the podcast there so that I can upgrade the production quality a bit. Also, you can find me at Patreon, Twitter, and Gab. All the links are down below. Please feel free to come on over to any of the social media sites that I'm on, or add me on any of your favorite social media sites. And as always, have yourselves a lovely day.